Hi guys, it's Kerri-Ann and I am back with my Sea and Flora project work. So I am just starting now the fine liner layer. So it's all nice and dry. I finished this one in the last video and now I am finally ready to get on to the stage that I love, which is the fine liner overlays. So as you can see, I work fast and I am very light with the pen on the first few layers, just because I don't always have a sort of a direct plan of attack when it comes to the fine liners. I just allow the pen to sort of take a lot of control from me, and it depends very much on if I have a plan in terms of the particular flowers as to whether I know what marks I'm going to make, but often I actually just allow the pen to take control and make the marks. I don't really often have a direct mark that I know I'm going to make when I put the pen to paper. It just sort of happens, and I find that actually that gives a whole nother layer of sort of mindfulness to the paintings and the work that I create. So I'm just working with a number 2 uni pen at the moment, uni pin pen, and I'm just doing some shape work at the top here. So I've added sort of some lines here for the foliage. Again, as I say, I'm working quite lightly. It is a number 2, but I can still get nice fine lines with it and then go back in and add the darker lines for a bit of depth when I'm confident and happy I know where I'm going with the design. A lot of people have asked, you know, why do I add these fine liner overlays? Why don't I leave it natural to watercolour, more sort of traditional? And I have got some paintings that I have left in that way, but I often find that I don't feel they're finished. I don't feel that they're quite mine, if that makes sense. I like the freedom of the fine liner over the top. I like the modernness of adding the fine liner. It creates it in a sense of it becomes mixed media in a way. Once you add that fine liner overlay, it's no longer just a watercolour painting. I do work sometimes with white pens for overlays as well, which is quite good, and giving some different highlights. So that's quite fun when I get to do that. Another question I've had recently was, do I work in just uni pin pens? No, I don't. I do have a selection of different pens that I work with. I work with micron pens, I work with Sharpie pens, I work with Perio and 4Artist marker pens as well. It very, very much depends on the paper that I'm working on or the surface, because I've done this on various surfaces now, and it also depends on what the project is. If it's for me, then usually I sort of go to my go-to pens, but if I'm working on commission work for companies who have asked me to work with their pens specifically, then obviously I have to use those specific pens to be able to give the feedback on them, but also just to be able to show what they are like to use. Let's just see what these flowers are going to turn into. Not too sure which. Kind of turning into an nasturtium, which I have got some trailing nasturtium in the garden at the moment, looking rather lovely. I love the leaves of nasturtium. Just leave those like this and see. As you can see, the pen, the way I use the pen, it is quite upright. Some people tend to use them on the side, but I think the upright for me allows me to put the level of pressure that I want on it, so that tends to be why I work in this way. I often go quiet when I'm starting to use my mind to decide on the marks, so this is where I'm actually thinking about the marks I want to make. I don't want the flowers to look too much like real flowers. What I want is the impression of flowers, but not necessarily so that they are like particular flowers. I just find it's more free if they have the feeling of flowers, but not too specific. So although in my mind then I was talking about the nasturtiums, they could be, you know, in other people's minds they could be thought to be lots of other different flowers, but the marks that I'm making make you think to flowers, which is what I want really. I'm just adding some other marks within there just to give that texture of the foliage, so it makes you think of the foliage again there. Hopefully you can start to see it coming together now, to building up now. Now this one I often find is one of the most difficult ones to do, where I've done the block colour and where I want it to be sort of dahlia-like in a sense. So the petals are not rounded, they are more sort of, it could be carnation style, it could be dahlia style, it could even be dandelion in a sense, couldn't it, the way that I've done that. But I'm just layering the marks so that they go inwards, but I'm not spiking them and I'm not curving them, if that makes sense. I'm just mixing it up a little bit with the marks that I'm making there. Again, my hand seems to be doing it, and I'm just telling you what my hand's doing, if that makes sense. It's quite funny. I don't know how I came across this technique of working, probably through sort of watching demonstrations over the years, or and just picking up bits that I've seen other people doing and choosing the bits that I like them doing and making my own way of doing it, if that makes sense. So it's quite good to watch other artists, but then adapt the ways that they work to make them suit you, so that you enjoy the process, because it's really important. Enjoying the process as well, I feel, is a really important part of the art. So this, again, I'm going back to the foliage here, and I don't follow the lines of the watercolour. I think that's a really important thing to say here, is I'm not following every motion of watercolour, because if I did that it would be too particular. So I'm literally just using the block colour and then just making that foliage markings appear over the top. There we go. So we've got the flowers coming through here. I'm leaving the sort of the rose effect ones till now. Let's just bring in some of the foliage here. Just going to add in so that it comes in behind there. And the white space that I leave when I'm doing the watercolour, hopefully that shows now why I do that as well. It just gives it that extra little pop when the white comes through. Right, let's finish off with the foliage here. I'm not, again, doing particular leaf shapes. I'm just moving around the pen. Sometimes I do move the paper to help me on this stage, just so that I can get the angle that I want, but because obviously I'm filming, I'm not going to move the paper for this one, so hopefully I get this part the way that I wanted it to be. There we go. Okay, so this is where it gets, for me, this is the hardest part, because I'm actually happy with how this has come along. I always find that with these ones I tend to not be as happy. So I think less is more when it comes to these. There could be roses, I guess there could be peonies, wherever your mind takes you, but less is definitely more. I'm not pressing quite so hard again, and I'm certainly not giving it a rounded edge as such. So far, let's keep moving, see what we can. I'm really happy with that actually. I think that's come out alright. So I've stuck with the 2 pen here. Usually I do change, but this number 2 seems to be working for me in this piece. Let's start giving the outline here of the flappers, whatever you want to call them. I certainly don't know what they're called. Of Mr. Turtle here. Just gonna, again, I'm not doing one solid line. I'm moving roughly and quickly around the edge, not one solid line. I never did decide what to do up here with the head, did I? I might just leave it as it is, you know. I probably should have done the same markings, but I think I'm going to leave it as it is for now. I might come back and change it like I do with a lot of the work, but just going to leave it as it is for now. Let's just bring those marks in like that. I'm just going to have some of my coffee a second. And let's bring this one together like that. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. I think that's come out how I sort of imagined it. I don't know if I need just a bit of texture in there in the form of dots. I don't know why I feel like it needed it, but I just want to do there we go. So there we have it. A fine liner overlay on the top of my floral turtle there. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching the process and why and how I build that one up on the fine liner layer. Thanks for watching everyone. Have a great day. Bye.